today is disinformation, and what is it and why is it happening, and just how to watch for it and how to resist falling in. I guess I'll start with some disinformation that I personally got caught up with, and that was this idea that in 1931 the UK passed legislation called the Westminster Statute, and in there they recognized Canada as being an independent member of the Commonwealth, which gave us the right to make our own constitution. And so the theory goes that we did not make our own constitution, therefore we have no constitution. And I bought that, all the de facto government, all that. So it was many months I was like, because I looked at it and, sure enough, it said we could make our own, but it took me, I think, about 6 months before it finally, light bulb came on. Wait a minute. And actually, the reason it came on so clearly is because I was watching some amendments that they were introducing currently in Canada, and I was just looking up the history of amendments, and here there's 30 amendments to the British North American Act between 1931 and current. So I'm like, wait a minute, how can they make amendments to something that doesn't exist? If it made it null and void when they gave us this go-ahead to make our own constitution, then how could there be amendments to it? And then I looked at it again and I thought it over, and it turns out that it's like if a baby bird, right? The mother wants it to fly, and she kind of quits keeping them to herself, and they've got the freedom to be in the nest and fly, and then they try and they don't get off the ground, but they're still in the nest. They still have the nest. And that's the same with the Constitution. We tried to make our own Constitution. I believe it's 4 times between 1931 and 1982. And each time it failed because the federal government and provincial government couldn't come to an agreement on the division of powers. So they failed. So anyways, fast forward. Now the new flavor of the day is so-called proof that we have no constitution. Another proof that we have no constitution. And this proof goes like this. René Lévesque from Quebec did not sign the Constitution. Therefore, it's not valid. Therefore, we have no Constitution. Well, that's complete hooey, because first of all, in 1982, that was not a constitution, not a whole constitution. Like Trudeau Senior was full of disinformation, misleading people, and manipulating the process, all that. And he made us think it was a constitution. He's repatriating, and there's the Queen signing, and all this ceremony, and he's doing a pirouette. He's so happy that he's got the Constitution for Canada. But it wasn't the Constitution for Canada. It was an amendment. And what that amendment is to allow Canada to have its own constitution, which we already had that right to do in 1931. So what was he even doing that for? Well, that's another story for another day, why he was doing it. But what it was an amendment. And what the Queen signed is that she signed the Canada Act into law, okay? But the Canada Act is a UK legislation, and it's just an amendment to the British North American Act. Now, with that amendment, we can make our own constitution, but again, we didn't. There was 3 efforts made, Meech Lake and Charlottetown, and then there was another one from the provinces. It was called Social Contract, and all those attempts failed. So we are not operating on the Canada Act 1982, because that's just an amendment, and we don't have no constitution. We still have a constitution that has that amendment in it. And you can check what I'm saying. You don't have to, it's not my evaluation or my opinion. Look in UK statutes, okay, or I think it's called UK legislation, and type in Canada Act 1982. It comes up in UK. And when you read it, it's not a whole constitution. It's an amendment to the British North American Act, which is now called the Constitution Act of Canada, which is different than the Canada Act. Okay, so I'm sure they did that on purpose to confuse things. But nevertheless, we still have the original Constitution, and it's now called the Constitution Act of 1867-1992, because it has an amendment, so it's a package. And if it's true that the 1982 Canada Act is invalid because René Lévesque didn't sign it, all that means is we didn't have that amendment. And that would be a big woohoo anyway, because the primary element of that Canada Act 1982 is the Charter. So if the Canada Act 1982 is invalid, yay, we have no charter. But it does appear to be valid because it's UK law, so it's enforceable. It's part of the traditional and the long-standing constitution that we had. And I'm not advocating that we not do our own, but it's a long process. And certainly in 1931, the government of UK did not want or create a situation where, okay, now you can be independent, so you have no constitution, because it's a long, arduous process. So that would have left us without law. Like, there's no way that was meant to remove the law, remove the Constitution, and give this freedom. It's both together. It's like the nest. The bird's trying to fly, but it's not ready. So it still has the nest. Anyway, disinformation is used in many ways by, like, I'm sure others use it as well, but it's a long-standing communist propaganda technique. And what it's primarily used for currently is to cloud the truth, so that you can't operate as effectively, because you know, if you've got some element of truth going on and then all this different disinformation mixed in. I can give you one example of how disinformation is used. I can't remember the guy's name, but there was a man who made a movie about the bombings in the subway in UK, and he made the claim in his movie that it was an inside job, like the government was involved, and he also made the same claim about 9/11, inside job, and they charged him with sedition. They said that you know, he's lying with the government, and that, you know, is meant to destabilize the government, blah, 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 blah. So they charged him, and he had a trial. And in the trial, he had to demonstrate the truthfulness of what he said in order to defend himself. And so he was able to do that. And he got found not guilty. So you didn't hear, you heard all the big hoopla when he got charged, but you didn't hear on mainstream media that he was found not guilty. He had a jury, and that's probably why. And then at the end of the day on social media, what you got was disinformation. And the disinformation was that he got found not guilty because he challenged the authenticity of the Queen's coronation. He said her ring wasn't the real ring, so when they coronated her, it was not valid, and so she's not the real queen, so they can't prosecute him because she's not the real queen. And that's not what happened. But that's, you know, especially the young truthers, they really like that. It sounds neater, you know. So that's what just blasted everywhere. And the fact that he won his case was completely obscured. So they didn't want that, you know, that advancing, that truth and that knowledge advancing. That he was able to demonstrate the truth that these are inside jobs. Anyway, that's one, I think, clear use of it. But the disturbing use of it right now is to distract you and to confuse you about what your rights are, what your legal rights are. We're in a common law country. We still have a constitution, as I just described to you. We can have our own, you know, and we're, you know, independent, but we still depend on this constitution because we haven't got our S together to fix it yet. So, what I was primarily wanting to do this video about is the disinformation used with regard to our rights. So one swipe is it, you have no constitution, okay? Which means you have no rights, because our rights, legal rights, we still have inalienable rights. They're not given by the government and they can't be taken by the government. But regardless, it's assisting us if we have the legal support of those rights. So in the way we're set up right now, the British North American Act, now the Constitution Act of Canada, says in the preamble that our Constitution is based on the principles of UK. And UK is a common law country, and UK had a Bill of Rights. So our Supreme Court said in 1938 case in Alberta that we have an implied Bill of Rights. So all the rights that were established or recorded in common law became our rights: freedom of speech, assemblies, all that. And they also decided that it was a federal matter, and it's protected by the Constitution. And then going forward, we have a case in 2022. Alford, his name's Ryan Alford, he's a law professor at Lakehead University, and he filed a constitutional challenge when the government tried to remove parliamentary privilege, and he argued that the preamble and that we're common law, and that you can't use legislation to override common law. Okay, so that is very important for people to know. So disinformation. So when people are getting on to the fact that, you know, we've been you know, abused and manipulated by local government, all levels of government, and especially recently, like pandemic and all that stuff. So it's their aim to make you feel that you have no legal recourse, that what they're doing, it's their sandbox, they make all the rules, there's nothing you could do. You have no constitution, so you have nothing, right? You have no capacity to get protection for your human rights and fundamental freedoms if we have no constitution. And like, all our laws are invalid if they don't rest on a constitutional basis. So we have no law at all. But that's not true. We have a rich articulated history of property rights, for example, and that's a big one right now. And a lot of people are getting on to you know, that what's going on, and it's about like 15-minute city, for example, like our right to life and liberty, and then our property, they're encroaching more and more onto our property, and people are getting onto this, like this is a violation of inalienable rights, and then my property rights, but they're seeing them as separate and distinct from the legal rights. But the case is that they are inalienable, and they're not given by the state, not taken by the state, but it assists us if we have a law to protect them and support them. So they want to, you know, keep you away from that truth. It's the same as that story I told you about the 9/11 and the subway bombings. So that your legal position, if you're trying to do any legal action, and you're, you know, I don't have a constitution, and I don't have rights, and I don't, you know, common law's gone, we're maritime law now, that's another whole, I'll do another show just on that alone, okay? But there's an attempt to bring us to maritime law, and we see some laws that go in that direction, but they're not legal, they're not based, they're not constitutionally supported. We can challenge them easily. And when you're dealing with the municipality, you have to use, most of the issues you want to use are property rights. And there's no way you can maintain property rights except with basically nonsensical arguments that don't work. And I mean, people can argue, and it's correct. If we didn't consent to something, then there's no jurisdiction for it. Like if we didn't consent, if we don't consent, like they don't ask us, they don't come and ask us if we consent to the charter, or not the charter, sorry, the Constitution. But we can still consent to it anyway. But if you don't consent to it, then it has no jurisdiction over you, because you're a completely free human being when you're born. You know, we're not a product of the state. The state is a product of us. We've created that. And we shouldn't have to struggle so much against it. And if we knew the legal provisions, we wouldn't have to. We can use centuries of common law. And, you know, like the woman's name is Elizabeth Marshall. She says, and beat them with the common law. And she's done a deep dive, and she's got some really good case law and definitions, everything that support these local issues. But that's all obscured with all this other stuff. Oh, Lenny Lebec and blah, blah, blah. Like, no. You can look it up for yourself. Look up the UK legislation, and then look up CanLII. I forgot to mention that. It's in CanLII also. Canada Act 1982. Okay? And it says UK. And when you read it, it's two amendments. One amendment is the charter, and the other is that, you know, we can pass our own constitution going forward. So be really careful of what you believe, and keep your eye on the pie. You know, we have it all in our law. We have rich, very favorable history of common law, which includes our right to a jury in all claims made against us, and we've got to come forward and demand that, instead of, oh, well, you know, we don't have anything because we don't have a constitution, so we can't have, you know, like, of course they want you to believe that, but don't, you know. Like I said, I got sucked into the Westminster statute argument, but it's not valid, and neither is we have no constitution because Rennie Lebec didn't sign it. No, doesn't matter if he signed it or not, because it's UK law. He doesn't have to sign UK law. And like he would have to sign, if we made our own constitution going forward, he would have to sign. But we didn't do that. And I guess each time we tried to do that, Quebec wouldn't sign again. So that's primarily why well, that's not why all three levels failed. There was a man, Elijah Harper, in Saskatchewan, I believe he was. He was an MLA, and they tried to pass something from the ground up, and they got all the MLAs right across Canada to sign it without discussion. And he said, he had his feather, and he said, I want my opportunity to discuss. So he defeated it because it had to be unanimous, and it wasn't because of him wanting this discussion. So it died. The whole move, the whole amendment move died. So thankfully, because those, I had a look back in the day at those proposed changes, and no, you didn't want that. It would even be more erosion than what the charter gave us. It was further erosion on our rights and our common law and everything. But we're still blessed with a very rich country that's being raped and pillaged at the moment, unfortunately. But we have to figure out that we have rights, and the government has obligations to protect our rights and to protect us from treason. So what do we have? We have an executive that's conspiring with communist country. So we need to look at that and make a demand that the officials, complete their process. Like right now they're investigating, and they're confirming publicly that there's this conspiracy going on, and we need action. We need arrests, and we need a clean house. That's what you need to do in a democratic society when the communists are after you. You don't need to help them flatten your government, which is what happens when we say all the police are corrupt and all the courts are corrupt and we have no constitution. That's all communist propaganda. And I didn't mean to get into anything else besides disinformation, but watch for disinformation. It's just something that fits in and obstructs the truth and the effectiveness of moving forward with a solid legal position. So that's it for today, and I'm still optimistic that we're getting headway. The Mosley case and the October 2023 Supreme Court decision overturning the federal law that disallowed Alberta to sell oil to the rest of Canada, which came from an agreement that the Liberals signed with the UN, saying that the UN could manage our natural resources, and that's one of their dictates, that we had to disallow that Alberta to sell to the rest of Canada. So that was overturned. Supreme Court said the government had no jurisdiction to do that, to pass a law like that. So anything that violates our Constitution / common law is not constitutional and can be overturned. So any of the ones that they snuck in already that undermined our right to privacy, for example, informed consent, whatever it is, we can have it overturned. But it's encroaching on our property, our private property, which is what it means is government has no authority on your property, not one toe on it, period. And they can't make regulations for it. They can't inspect it. They can't come near it. That's private property. It's your castle. Your home is your castle. That's in Canadian law. That's part of our rule of law. Is your home is your castle. So we got to get with the program, like the real program, and get rid of the disinformation, because it's gonna bog us down and defeat us, because that's what it's for. Because it's a psychological war. So if you let that, if you go along with that and believe it and pass it around to people and act like somebody that doesn't believe it is like not informed, or doesn't know all about that, René Lévesque didn't sign it, so they must be whatever. Like those are techniques also, propaganda techniques like crowd control and and make you think you're in the know and you're in the whatever. No, don't go there. Don't go there. And examine and always come back to, this is a common law country. We have common law rights. Common law recognizes that rights, human rights, and fundamental freedoms are inalienable. The government didn't give them. They can't take them away. And you can't even give them away. Okay? That's how solid common law is. And don't use Black's dictionary definition anymore, because they changed it. In the 8th edition, it said that inalienable means that you weren't given the rights, and they can't take them away, and you can't give them away. And now they changed it so it's just they didn't give it, they can't take it, but you can give it away. So just go by the real definition, which is God-given natural rights, and they are protected very firmly in Canadian law by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which are complementary and supportive of each other. So we're good. That's it. Hashtag we got this.